Hi, we're live. Good morning with Sam and
And
Dad.
Dan,
Actually,
and
we've changed the name of the
it's
show.
good morning here, and we've got a fade out background screen, so the computer's always going to be wondering whether it's in focus or not. It's a fade out screen. Ooh,
You look like a star. You look like a star, Daddy.
I can't help it. I got born this way. I got brought up this way. It's what I take as normal. We all get brought up. We grow into a world that we have to assume is normal because we know no other. By the time we get to about seven, we go, I'm different to everybody else. My family's different in modern times. In the old days, we were all just in tribes. And then in the old days, about half the quarter of the population was in little villages and stuff. And more people settled down eating the food that we could grow and store over winter. And thus, after the last ice age, we finished, many of us, being full time nomads. And increasingly now we just urbanise until China's just put 1 billion people into suburbia in the last 50 years.
Coming in hot. I like it. I like the energy. Oh, wait. Say some more stuff.
Well, there's
Ah,
plenty to
sweet.
be
Wait. Oh,
said.
wait. That was a trick. Well, no, it wasn't a trick. That was a sound test. Um, because I have a coming in hot. I'm different from everyone else. I'm assuming you mean in the sense of like self identity and ideation
Yes.
of like. But also, my question is, so I'm like learning a little bit about, I guess, like medical classifications of like essentially neurotypes. I'm calling them as opposed to like neurotypical or neurodivergent. But do you think the question I thought is anyone more different from everyone else than everyone else? Do you know what I mean? Is there like a
I know
different
exactly
baseline?
what you mean. Here's the Dr. Gowdy textbook answer. It's just oral stories. And it goes like this: the difference between us and the great apes is less than 1% genetically, right? The whole evolutionary trick is we've got the same sort of salt contents in our blood as seawater is. We are an integrated part of an organism explosion on this planet over the last 2.5 billion years. So that with the coming of the great big meteor 65 million years ago, the little mammal things could go and get out from under those now all dead dinosaurs. No food, boo for them. Yay for us little mammal, warm blooded placental things. And away we've gone. And we've evolved, and then just in the last 2 or 3 million years, we've gone, oh, Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Australopithecus, blah, 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 on and on it goes. But we are genetically very, very close to our nearest ape-like uh, predecessor, ancestors, equivalents that are still surviving today. What few in Borneo and on like that, our prowess. But that's not this story. This story is that the likeness between and the differences, the genetics now say the likenesses between different peoples in China and Europeans and different peoples in Africa to on and on it goes. The likenesses within groups are often less than the likenesses between apparently very genetically divergent groups. So I might have more genetic identicalness with one of my Aboriginal friends than I might have with my third cousin.
Hmm.
So, for
That's
the
interesting.
genetic base of who the hell each of us individually are, it's a very blurry story. In terms of the particular makeup of the mum and dad and the grandpas and the grandmas and the great great grandmas and the whole backstory of the genetics and the cultural sheath that made you, made me, made whoever's out there, and hello, whoever's listening out there and watching, then the idea of we're all different from each other. Oh, shit, yeah, from the moment before we were conceived, back generations. Oh, my people have always had land. My people have always been very go getter and um, forward and designing and creative, and that's the cultural sheath I popped into. Whereas your cult, so long before we're born, the differences of who we have a chance to become because of the where and the when and to whom of our birth and time and space, particularly in the last 15,000 years since any of us started to settle down. The differences between us are predetermined on a profound level, and yet we're as good as identical.
That's a good. All right, cool. Well, coming in hot on that as well, and I guess also like the difference. So like there's the difference between how we like express our characteristics, but like the difference that I'm interested in is like how different we are in perceiving the world and synthesizing information, because it's that thing, that one thing that you can't really measure, I guess. Is like, so if I'm like, if so I've got a brain type, not capability or anything like that, that is like classed as neurodivergent, right? Like hypothetically, right? Diagnostically, it's like, okay, that's because that person has such a different like worldview or like experience of the world, I guess, and way of processing information than the norm. But does that mean that the norm worldview is like these? There's this baseline of internal experience and information synthesis that Jenny meets Michael and it's like we are processing information to such a degree that we're in the same category, whereas this person that's on this other information processing spectrum is so different? Or is it just that it's like it's like, or could you say that every person's internal experience? I feel like it's like every person's internal experience is completely different, or it's exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? Like it can't be.
Well,
I don't. Or there's no.
Answer,
how do you?
Yeah, my answer is both of them, and it's the dilemma of all deep philosophies. The way of the Dao. Oops, I've got lost. The way of the Dao is that it's unknowable. It's unknowable. What's happening? It's unknowable. Oh, I'm coming through the moving sheet of now and the time continuum. I will emerge.
Oh, you know what? You're getting a blur on my thing. Okay, so other people can't see. Hang on. All right. No, check this out. So, sorry. There we go.
Ah, now we're good. I'm on TV at last.
You've done it. KK, you've done it.
It comes out the top of the TV.
Hang on,
and so my thing is this, Sam, and it's a very deep and profound question, and it is both of those. The way of the Tao is unknowable. We all see the world the same. If steam trains coming at us, if an electric car's coming at us, whatever's coming at us, and we've got to move to stay alive, we're all going to sort of respond the same. If we're in a house and it's on fire, we're all going to go, want to get out of here. There's a whole bunch of physiology that we absolutely share with the apes and the primates, all of mammals, most of living creation. The fight or flight, the I want food, I want to grow, I want to be realized as a carrot, or as a fig tree, or as a cat, or as a Doug, or a Sam. We're just wired. The biology of existence says that we want to kind of thrive and prosper. If it didn't do that, we wouldn't be in existence. It's a simple relationship of possibility and good luck and being at the right place at the right time in terms of evolution, and carrying the right sets of genes in the different changing circumstances, on and on. We could look at the coral adaptation to ocean warming up in the tropics, and that a lot of what were tropical corals are now starting to colonise into Sydney Harbour and so on. It's things adapt and so on. That's biology. How we see the world, and the psychology stuff talks about the screens and filters through which we see the world. I have them, you have them, this snail out in the garden's got them, the birds that's normally flittering around here, they've all got these screens and filters through which they see the world. So to us humans, and it's profoundly coloured in humans by our genetics and our diversity, given that it's not much different to the great apes. So let's not get too carried away with our own, well, I've got white skin, therefore I'm superior or whatever like that. My people had to fight more viciously, and so they invented steel and swords and all the rest of it. So be it. But here we are, we get born in a particular time and place to a particular cultural sheath. And in my worldview, the screens and filters through which I've been trained to see the world, as you know, most of my uncles were sort of sciencey, farmery people. The women folk of my cultural sheath were teachers and people who had high civic engagement and contribution and culturally active and vibrant and contributing, and so be it. I am who I am, and because of that, you are to some real extent who you are. Another bit in the mix of who we are and thus how we see the world, how we process information. One summary of how we process information: he's more intelligent than he is, and this person knows how to kick a football better than that person. And the differences are profound, but the similarities are also profound. How you see the world, how I see the world, is just a product of our genetics and our cultural sheath and our life experience. It can't be anything else.
All right, topic two. This is just riffing off your first sentence. So, just that's welcome to the jungle. You talked about, China filling suburbia, which is just an incredible feat, however you like to define their politics, and obviously they're the last bastion of communism, which was the great, ideological battle is between fascism, communism, and capitalism, and, fascism. Well, anyway, that's another story. I just heard this interesting tidbit. So the idea is, and they're pretty aggressively towards this, is that they basically need to do capitalism with socialist characteristics to like boost and jumpstart their economy. That's like one of their like the socialists, like their red book shit, and that like they're doing that right now, like to a certain degree, like where they are doing capitalism, and we can see that, and we're like, okay, they're playing the game right. And then this idea of, this is just such a random offhand thing, but it just struck me, is that eventually their goal is to get to a prosperity level where they just like they take away, scarcity and yada yada yada. It's like the plan, pretty much. And like the ghost cities, which are partly like they just build all these cities that no one's in, is partly because they've no one can actually afford to under the current capitalist system that China's using. But those cities are for the next generation because they are built for when you won't need to afford a house. And it was just such a random, like, they've like this idea of China playing capitalism now to get their shit to not be squashed by capitalism, essentially. Not because they're like, oh, this is the only way to do it. They're like, this is the only way to play the global imperial game at the moment. But that their long play is to, and they're building all these, the idea that they're building houses not just as a like economic engine, but as a point where eventually you'll just get a house because that's how communism works. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't know if it's true or not, but I was like, it's just an interesting thought, because you see, like obviously you see everything through the lens of like Western propaganda, and it's like, oh, look at these ghost towns, yada yada yada. So yeah, what do you reckon? Communist?
Well, my gig is this: China has had a propensity to have central control, central rule for a good 2,000 years, for a bunch of reasons to do with the Mughal attacks and the wild warriors to their west, and to have some sort of peace and prosperity and food in the belly and not be cut to pieces by invading marauders who are ruthless and brutal. They developed a cohesion and central control, not based like every other Western thing until democracy relatively recently. It said from the outset, oh, we're going to have emperors, and that's linear, and it's who the where and the when of whom you got born to. If you got born as one of the emperor class, then good luck for you. But in the last couple of hundred years, with the efforts of all of the West that had enough sailing ships and guns and arrogance and so on, and Christianity, but let's just go with arrogance and guns. They went over there and they said, we're going to corrupt you because you've got a whole bunch of stuff that we really want, like your silks and your gunpowder and all this and that. We're going to introduce opium. We're going to try and disable you. And the West really did everything it could to cripple China for a good couple of 100 years. And eventually China went, nah, and fought back enough, and still is, in a sense, fighting back. But you've heard this spiel before. 30 years ago, China said, we've been fighting you economic-oriented people instead of a values-based Confucian worldview, this greed and avarice and brutality of acquisition. We've been fighting you capitalist pig dogs for 200 years, and 30 years ago they said, well, we're sick of this. We're going to embrace your rules and we're going to embrace your capitalism. But because we've got central control, we've got a vision that will span generations. We're on a roll building places. We don't need all these places now, but we're going to build them now because the next generation, because we look 100 years ahead. We understand the well-being of us as a people, whereas capitalism and its partner democratic process and the rule of law, our idea of Western law, they're all very fabulous things. I love them. But they've got no vision for any long term as the Chinese do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that struck me. Is just the idea of like a civic institution doing anything for the long term. I was just like, oh, imagine that. Like, how good would that be? So it just stuck with me. So if you give me 2 more seconds, I'm going to do an awesome segue. Give me some segue material. We've got 4 minutes left.
Some segue. We were going this way. Now we're going the other way. It's the segue. Whose way segue?
One more round of that.
Oh, and then I'm looking out the window, wondering when the rain's gonna come. Cause rain is coming. I want more rain. Working on the road, it's a pain.
Oh, don't make it a cool song now. I want to get involved. It's called when I got big rain.
Working on the road and I love it. Woo-hoo. Working on the road. Went up there with my 2 tools. No, I'm no freak there. Earthworking tools. I went up there because I love it. And I got back to do this show with my darling son Sam.
Sorry, Dad. I'm gonna have to cut you off for a second. We've got some breaking news coming in. We're actually where's your thinking at segment. I don't know. I feel like
suddenly I'm the thinker philosopher.
All right, we got 3 minutes left as well. So
it's funny you should ask about my thinking. Will it be blurry? No, it won't. It's the
put it closer to your face so it can't. It has to.
I can get it in the same plane.
No, underneath. Same plane. Yeah, a bit higher. There we go.
Now, the new philosopher. I'm the new philosopher. Some people say I'm a tosser, but I'm the new philosopher. And my thinking is to do with the purpose of life. Oh, you can't see that. I won't use that prop. But I've been reading through this new philosopher thing, and the idea of the purpose of life. Now, as a biologist here, I'll put on that hat and say, there is no purpose. You get born and you live and you die, and it's an interesting story or a dull story, and you live in hard times or good times. You live in a rich place, or you live in tropical rainforest, or you live in a burning desert, and you do what you do to get through each day and hopefully have kids and hopefully live to be old, without too much ill health. That's the purpose of life. But the deeper idea of philosophy, like I was reading into this about
got 1 minute left, so just
the fellow who pushed the stone up the hill all his life because he offended the gods.
Sisyphus,
put out with them.
My hero.
And the idea of people do have tasks that they just labour under their whole lives long, versus the concepts of self-actualization. The end.
All right, take us in hot. Well, I guess we'll have to pick that up for next time. So make sure that you are tuned in Saturday morning around this time, because time is a sheet, but it does have some wobble for the Sam and Dad show. Thank you very much, Dad. I'm so glad you're on your computer. We'll chat about that another time. I'm going to go get vaccinated. You should too. Not you. Well, you should as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Any final words, Dad?
No, just get vaccinated and do the right thing. Don't be a dickhead.
Don't be a dickhead.
As I saw on the TV there, I'll just get this out very quickly. Andrew Hope sent me a link to a song that includes by Angry Anderson and a whole bunch of other people. Just stay the fuck home.
Unless you're getting vaccinated. Keep pushing that